Okay, we're going to talk about Chapter 5 today in this lecture, Schools and Technology. This is a pretty straightforward lecture, probably a lot of stuff you already know, but as this is a required class that you need to get your license for teaching, we have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. The learning outcomes will be to identify the components of a typical classroom computer system and their application in the classroom, to describe the functions of classroom computers and peripherals, determine the role of networking in enhancing the capabilities of classroom computers, and identify the opportunities and challenges associated with computer integration. Well, you will be the first responders to anything going wrong with the computers in your classroom. You're going to be expected to know this stuff, some stuff anyway, about computers. You're going to have IT people or technology coaches. They're going to get very irritated to come in to fix something very simplistic that you should know. Now, most of you, if not all of you, are technologically literate. You know a little bit about computers. You may not know all the nuts and bolts. You're not expected to know everything, but you should be able to fix some pretty elementary things. So again, you need to know how to handle minor issues and at least identify what's going on if you can't fix it to the IT people. Educated computer literacy means that you must know enough about computers to keep them available for your students, not just you. Computer hardware, well, that's the box with all the wires in it, okay, and some other things too, but uh, the the actual box that the wires and stuff are in is known as hardware, and it includes in it short and long term storage, also known as memory. So, short term memory, also known as RAM or random access memory, deals with something like you copy and paste. When you hit copy, the whatever you copied automatically goes onto what's called the clipboard. It actually goes into random access memory, um, or short term memory. If the computer was to shut off at that point, you would lose that data. I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have written a paper and you forgot to save and something happened and you lost all your work. Well, when you were typing and doing everything, it was saved in random access memory. However, you didn't save it to the computer, which would be the long term memory. You didn't save it to the hard drive, so it ends up getting lost. Um, Again, long term is data stored on a storage device like your hard drive or a flash drive or a CD. Hardware uses programs known as software to complete tasks. So we have to have some type of application in order to do something. Otherwise, you're just going to play with your computer's different presets, and you can go in and change things with the control panel and stuff. But other than that, you're not really doing much. You got to have a browser, Internet Explorer, Foxfire, Firefox, whatever it's called, Safari, Chrome, whatever, in order to look at the internet. That is a software package. You have to write papers, do PowerPoints, you need Office, obviously, those types of things. These applications tell the computer what to do and how to perform the task. Computer hardware, it's difficult, can be difficult to uh, acquire new hardware in your schools. However, most school districts put money aside every other year or so to get new stuff. FAMU, for instance, supposedly switches out their computers every 2 years. It's going on about 3 years now, so we'll see what happens. But typically, the school selects hardware on the basis of bid prices. They get several people offer to outfit them and do what they need, and they give a price and they take the best price. One of the issues that most school districts like or support if something goes wrong are the computer people going to support them, give them support, and additional compatibility with all these different softwares. Districts usually have a strategic plan to deal with all this in the most efficient way, and you often participate in that process. You might even be asked as a new faculty member to be on the technology committee in your school and or school district. A strategic plan is phased in as new hardware is acquired, and you may have to deal with several different types of hardware in your classroom. You may have a hodgepodge of different computers. You might have some Macs, you might have some PCs, you might have an old scanner, might have a new scanner. We won't know until you get there, but as again, you're all technologically literate, it shouldn't be that big a deal for you. Input devices allow users to enter data and commands. The most common one is a keyboard. We talked about those as assistive devices to help students with special needs. And the operating system that you have, whether it's Windows or Mac or whatever, you're going to have preferences to change things like the speed of the mouse and how fast things do things and all kinds of other things. So, as far as the keyboard goes, so in Windows you go to control panels, and Mac you go to the system preferences. Pointing devices, simply the mouse. Okay, trackballs are pretty passe. Trackpads are generally now with laptops, but again, you can do different things like to make this go faster, slower. You might want students to be a little bit slower. Again, it's not you, it's your students. So functionality can be adjusted via the operating system, make pointing devices easier for students to use. Classroom output devices. The big one is the monitor. Gotta have a monitor. The box isn't that good. You can read about resolutions, but essentially it's what your computer monitor displays. It typically is a horizontal, meaning if this is your window, how many pixels are this way versus how many pixels are this way. Pixel stands for picture element. Your screen is made up of millions and millions of picture elements that make color and do the types of things you need to see. The greater the number, the better the image, and it can be adjusted and customized to what you want, particularly with older software. You might have a computer game on your computer and it has to adjust the resolution to work the game. That's very typical. But nowadays, when you buy a new computer, you don't really have to worry about resolution. The manufacturer suggests the resolution for particular computers, and it's pretty much done for you automatically. Output devices, obviously the printer, most common output device. It can be standalone, network, wired, or wireless. I have a wireless printer in my house. I can be in any room if I have my laptop or my iPad or even my phone and print anywhere in my house to my computer without being hooked up with a wire. It's generally measured in resolution or dots per inch, and if you were to look at some printed piece, particularly a photograph, and you looked at it through some type of magnifying glass, you will see it's made out of dots. The more dots per inch, the longer it takes to print things. We have inkjet printers. They're expensive. They have good resolution, but they use a lot of ink. That's why they're inexpensive. I just bought a brand new inkjet printer for this project I was working on, and I ended up spending about $300 on ink because it was just running out every 5 minutes. Laser printers are more expensive, but they use what's called toner, which is like a powdery graphite, and they can use color uh, powders as well to get color. The toner cartridges are bigger, so they last longer. You're not out buying ink all the time. However, the printers themselves can be much more expensive. Many times, both are bundled with scanners, uh, copiers. You can do double sided printing now very easily. So, uh, you know, less money, more on ink generally. The computer system itself contains the primary components, including the motherboard, ports, and storage. The ports are all the wires that come out of your computers. They are known as ports. The motherboard is a series of uh, different components on a chipboard, um, and they can include storage units in those. Um, Generally, customized computer peripherals are attached to the system via the ports, like I said, printers, monitors, those types of things, mices. The motherboard includes the big thing, which is CPU, the central processing unit. It's really just a microprocessor chip that all computers have, and it's generally the brains of the computer. Um, if you look at your computers, you'll probably see something on there that says Intel 75, whatever. Um, that is the CPU, and they're now made very fast. We generally don't have to worry about speed anymore. The CPUs were always the big hot thing back in the day. You had the best CPU, the faster you could get things done. You didn't have to wait for things to print. You didn't have to wait for stuff to save and find stuff, and you see the little wheel going around on your screen waiting for something to happen. And then again, random access memory. You can actually buy more random access memory if you're using bigger files that you want to copy and paste. The computer system in the school. Um, to manage classroom computers, you need to be aware of system unit capabilities. These are software specifications that have to match the computers. You might have different operating systems in your room. You might have Windows or Macs. Generally, Macs were king in education. Everybody had Macs in the schools. Now Windows is dominant, so that's done a complete reversal. Um, but you might have old Macs in your computer labs that you're in, so you need to be aware of Macs. So you need to go to a Mac lab and play with them. They operate unique configurations of system hardware, and if you're going to buy software, you better make sure it's going to be for a Mac or a Windows and buy the correct software for it to run properly. And then don't worry about software. I have up or down here capability. Storage devices. Generally, we have the hard drive to store stuff, but you can get removable hard drives. You can get flash drives, so forth and so on. And then there's the popular thing now is the cloud. We'll talk about that in a second. Whoop. Okay. Malware are viruses, basically, and spy programs and other uninvited malicious software that can be downloaded to hard drives via email or website visits. Also, can get into students' computer, and they might generate a document in Microsoft Word that is infected, and you got to deal with that. But we have really good antivirus programs nowadays that really take care of this stuff for you. The problem is you got to make sure it's on and it's updated. Otherwise, you might lose a lot of stuff. Generally, Macs aren't affected by malware as much as PCs, generally because malware is invented to infect PCs because they are the most dominant computers, and they're generally used in business. So that's where most of the malware comes from anyway. Portable storage media. We don't use this stuff that much anymore. CD-ROMs or and DVRs and stuff. They're really going out. Um, for example, we're not using DVRs as much because we got Netflix and things like that. And if you have Comcast cable, you can buy all the video on demand and all that stuff. Um, a lot of computers now are not don't even have CD-ROMs anymore. Okay, so you need to know this stuff. Read this PowerPoint. Read what it says in your book. There will be probably a question on it on the quiz. Portable storage media. Well, we have the external hard drives and flash drives are typical to back up your data, but backing up now is really done a lot on clouds. Now, a cloud storage is not something that goes up into the actual clouds in the sky. It's going to a server somewhere in a room, somewhere in the world, and it's being stored there. So there are several different cloud things out there. They're very nice to have. I use them. I use one called Dropbox. It's free. It gives you 5 gigabytes of free space. You just have to go in and give them an email address and a name and a password. You don't have to use a credit card. You don't have to do anything, and boom, you have storage that you can get anywhere on any computer as long as it's hooked up to the internet. So you could share stuff with each other. Another one out there is Google Docs. That's becoming very popular. You might want to look that up if you're interested in this stuff. But clouds, people get all, you know, nervous about clouds, and clouds are great. And there's nothing to be nervous about. It's very easy to use. Don't be intimidated. Network storage. Networks are really becoming a thing of the past too. I mean, we have networks in schools, but generally this is all being done via the internet now. So um, a lot of networking is really specialized for like doctors' offices and dentist offices and stuff like that. But schools are really going to online things like Blackboard to do their administrative work. They're really not using them that much. So there are things called LANs, which is a local access network and doesn't require internet, and your school may have it, so you can deal with that. So again, you can read all this network stuff, um, but again, it's really becoming a thing of the past. Um, Finally, the opportunities when using classroom computers. Well, you're preparing students for 21st century learning, and they are going to have a lot of skills. You can read all this, but the bottom line with is that, and both this one and the challenges that I feel are relevant are that you pretty much are at the precipice of technology, pretty much know what's going on in terms of educational or technology itself. You may not know as much as you need to know about educational technology, and we'll try to remedy that throughout this course. However, you do know a lot about technology, and you need to keep abreast because of, 5 years from now, things are going to be completely different than they are now. Okay, so what you know now may not make any difference in 5 years. So you may get an A in this class and then everything changes. So you have to be technology leaders. You have to make sure you keep abreast of all technologies, and hopefully I will inspire you to do that with this class. Okay, quiz this week. This Thursday opens up at 5 and Sunday at 11:55. Get it done. Talk to you later.